Hey, courageous school leaders. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits, the space where school leaders like you gain unfiltered insights from educators, uncover the hidden barriers holding your staff back, and get practical strategies to lead with confidence. If you're ready to tackle the real challenges in your schools and create the clarity your team needs to thrive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and get to work.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Lead Beyond Limits. As you know, this is the rebranded series that started this year, 2025, and I'm so glad to have you with us. If you're watching the replay or happen to hop on live, thank you so much for joining. And this stage is set so that I can bring on some wonderful experienced, intelligent individuals like my guest today, Rosalind Fleming, future Dr. Fleming, to invite guests to talk about the things that matter in specifically urban education, right? Like, so thinking about what are the things that and the experiences that people have that can impact you as a leader in your decision making process. And so, I speak a lot about qualitative data and the pieces of information that you should be gathering as a leader to help you become this confident and courageous leader that you are. But sometimes we just need that little push, and we need that little nudge, and we need those little nuggets of wisdom from other people to get us on that road, right? So again, thank you for joining us and participating in the conversation. If you want the workbook associated with the Lead Beyond Limits series, please shoot me a direct message and I will send you the link for you to get the PDF of the workbook. It goes with every single Lead Beyond Limits series. It helps you to think, reflect, and plan. So don't forget to hit those DMs if you want that. And without further ado, I want to take the time to introduce very briefly, because I need her to take the stage and introduce herself. But future Dr. Rosalind Fleming has been an educator, has been an assistant principal, has been a principal in Baltimore City, and has really been about the work of what is best for kids, right? And she and I worked together in the same school, and it was just a wonderful experience to see, to grow alongside her, right? Because that's the thing about leadership, is that you're never finished learning. While she was learning, I was learning. And that growing together was really something that I will always cherish and take with me in terms of every single step that I do moving forward. So without further ado, Rosalind Fleming, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Hi, Damia. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And so I want you to introduce yourself, and while you're in the introduction, talk about how it connects to this the theme for our conversation today, the basis of our conversation, which is school leadership changing lives, right? Like how your school leadership experiences have shaped who you are now, because now you are informing educators and leaders how they can empower Black girls beyond the classroom, right? Such a powerful thing that you're doing. So please introduce yourself and how and why you do what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So my name is Rosalind Fleming. I am an executive director. I am a founder, but I'm also a principal consultant of my own company, in Unlocking Destiny, while I'm also the executive director and founder of Empowering Her Destiny. That's where I currently stand. That's my positionality at this particular time. However, I come through, like, I am my experiences, right? And so I have over 15 years of experience in education, all intentional footsteps, it feels like. So I started off as a teacher in Baltimore City schools, and then I transitioned to a teacher leader, where I was doing a lot of work with just making learning come alive for children across other grade levels and teaching other teachers how to do that as well. And I transitioned into school leadership because I really wanted every child to experience the passion that I had for them and not just the 25 children that I had within my class.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was a part of this leadership program, and we had principal mentors. So Demia, Dr. Thomas, was my principal mentor. And I remember the first day I got there, nervous as I don't know what. Then she just greeted me with the most love and the most like excitement and like, let's get to work. And it was the beginning of really being able to be aligned in a team that really cared about children. Sometimes as a leader, even as a teacher leader, you feel like you're the only one. Like, am I the only one that is seeing that things are going wrong? Like, why does it feel like I'm pulling teeth across, other administrators, other leaders, other colleagues, other, stakeholders? But it felt like for the first time, all of us were in the data. All of us were about school changing, and all of us were about like growing and learning. And so as I came into the school, that was my first time being in a school where it was all Black girls. I didn't know the transformation that was really going to happen within me. I learned that school just was not enough for little Black girls, and it almost created a box for that they had to exist in, and it was a box that I was not going to perpetuate. And so I then began creating, and I'm sure these are questions that'll be asked later, but I began creating systems and structures that align to what I believed about being a culturally proficient leader, and what I believe aligned to what it meant to be leading Black girls towards liberation, towards a life and a vision, and thought process where they could thrive and not survive. And so that kind of like birthed this vision of like, first, Unlocking Destiny came, and that was my business where I just wanted to make sure that Black teachers and educators and leaders had whatever they needed. And I was doing coaching and all those things. But one day I was called down from to a doctor's office reached out to me and said, hey, these young girls in this rural town, which is actually the town that I'm originally from, Wallace, North Carolina. And she said that I am really struggling. Like, they are coming in here with such lack of confidence and showing signs of depression. And I don't think that it is just, this biological thing. I really believe it's the environment and what they believe about themselves.
Yeah.
And so I created a program. I created a workshop. It was called Journey to Confidence. And, I'm just doing my thing, as a curriculum developer and a lover for Black girls, like just creating this safe space to talk and pour into them. But when I left, parents were saying, you changed my daughter's life. Like my daughter was suicidal and had suicidal ideation. And she's just transitioning in such a way. And from there, it was like, this is my calling. Like, I am one who creates safe spaces for Black girls.
Yeah.
People who, work with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That journey, it's so clear how, those dots are connected, you being introduced to an all-girls space. Like, imagine if you didn't go there, like how that journey could have changed, right? And I love the fact that you're impacting girls in a way that is so needed, because we all, we as we have these feelings and emotions, especially as teenagers, that it's hard for us to navigate through. But you found a way to do that based on your experience as a leader, right? Like, you led an all-girls school.
Yeah.
So you understand the nuances. You understand those things that occur that other people from the outside, their lens is different. They won't understand it like you do. I absolutely love that and really appreciate the work that you do. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So reflecting on your transition, what leadership skills do you think, like from being a school leader, have been most valuable to you right now in running your business?
I will tell you that organizational development, I can build something from the ground up, and I can strategically navigate barriers and foresee like what needs to happen in the future in order to reach a goal, and also make sure that we stay on track. So remember when at the beginning of every year you would create those calendars and we would work the calendar.
Right.
I find that to be such a pivotal system within my nonprofit where at the end of the year, I present a calendar to the board and we work the calendar for the remaining of the year. So thinking about and developing systems and structures and using feedback in order to figure out how programming can get even better, and thinking about how do we include stakeholders to continue to evolve our programming, thinking about how to scale. Is it time to bring in more girls in our mentoring program, or do we need to stay the same? Like that type of analysis and like futuristic planning and strategic planning is something that puts me at an advantage against someone else who just started a business. And, you know, that's me tooting my own horn.
But you better.
I think that you really could, you know, you understand that, right? Like that is the work that we always did as leaders. And that is also the work that you have to do as a business owner. There are so many systems, so many structures and templates and things of nature that I create that really came from me being a school leader. And all I'm doing is transitioning it in. And so sometimes I'm pulled into organizations to develop, like do organizational development work. Now, mind you, I said I wanted to, like, you know, in my actual LLC, I'm supposed to be, you know, creating like curriculum and making sure that Black teachers, educators, and students have what they need. However, I had to be open that my skill set is also a little wider. And so what do I need to do in being open to like receiving those opportunities as well? And so organizational development has been actually a strength of mine, going into an organization, assessing where they are and really trying to create a plan and a goal of where I futuristically see them using the input of the leader of that organization. So
all the language that you school leaders listening in are using right now, okay? Data collection, data analysis, strategic planning. So to those leaders who are listening to this replay, where you are feeling like Rosalind said, like you're the only one, like you know, are really struggling in the work that you do, it's okay to struggle. It's like productive struggle is a good thing. And if you're not struggling, or if it's not a challenge, then it's probably not for you anyway, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is you are brilliant in the work that you're doing. You are creating skills that can help you once you leave that principalship, right? We have future Dr. Rosalind Fleming here explaining like how that principalship, how those leadership skills have primed her for the work that she's doing right now. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that, Rosalind.
Absolutely.
So in both roles, you know, as a school leader and in your current role as a CEO of both a nonprofit and an LLC, right? Decision making is key. We know that.
Yeah.
So how do you approach high stakes decisions now, right? And how did your experience as a school leader help to shape that approach in your decision making now?
Yeah. So as a novice leader, I would just like to make my decisions by myself. I don't want to hear from nobody else. I need to go in here, get it done. I'll let y'all know later. But through my
That's so funny.
Like, listen, that just gone now, just gone. But as the years went on as a school leader, I realized that the only time a leader really needs to be making decisions in silo is during crisis management. So let's say somebody's coming to harm. You in a minute, you got to make a decision. You ain't got time to, hey, everybody, let's huddle. What do y'all want to do? And once I realized that crisis management may be the only time that you're really making a decision in silo, in the most dangerous situations, I realized that somebody has to be at the table at every given point. And I also had to break through my deficit thinking about just because I'm collaborating with others or getting input from others doesn't take away from me. Right. It does several things. Number one, make sure that the idea that I have is so thorough, because I have really leaned into the fact that I am a visionary. I am not a person that's going to pay attention to the A, the B, the C, and D. And I wear that proudly. I wear it proudly. Like, listen, I'm bringing y'all together because I don't know all of this. I just know that we need to get to the mountaintop. I don't know. You know that we need to bring water. I ain't think about the water. So make sure it get here. You know
Girl.
that we need to bring a map. I ain't even thinking
Mm-hmm.
about a map. All I know is we need to get to the mountaintop.
Right.
knowing that is what the purpose of collaboration is. It really it really like evolved my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that. Like it was a little, I had to grow into to understanding that. So now, I have to, report to a board, and I have to like have committees to make sure this organization runs. And these are volunteers. So it is very important to make sure that people feel included
Yeah.
in the decision making, because if they don't have to be there. And I realize at this juncture of my thinking around leadership, I need others to make a vision come true. And it's not
Yeah.
even a vision, it's not my vision. It's a vision for liberation of Black girls. Like Black
Yeah.
girls can't be free unless this vision is realized and sought through. And
Yeah.
so it's so much on the table when I'm not, when I may not be collaborating for decision making. So I would say collaborative decision making is I've leaned into that so much. It is very important. And as you become collaborative and people see you that way, it's almost like people continue to gravitate towards you.
It's a magnet. Yeah.
Even better and better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I know with the nonprofit, you have a board, right? That's the structure. With an LLC, you don't necessarily have to have a board.
Yes.
And so how do you find that balance of particularly with the LLC, how do you find that balance with the decision making process where, because you're collaborative, because you're the visionary, what do you do in the instance when you're making decisions for the LLC?
Yeah, so those decisions are made so I have other peers and colleagues who are also entrepreneurs, maybe even other principals and things of that nature, so that I can stay plugged in and stay connected to like what's going on. So maybe I have this grand idea, but maybe it's not just such a grand idea. Like we may have so many good ideas, but if the community doesn't need it, it's not, we just need to put it in the pocket until another time. And so that is where decision making comes in, making sure that the things that I think need to happen, do they really need to happen?
Right.
Let's go ask the people who would be receiving those services, the people who would be on the ground, to ensure that that's something that they really want. So that's one way, is like involving stakeholders and kind of getting what educators call a dipstick to see like how is everybody feeling. And then the other way is just like collaboration with other entrepreneurs. What systems are you using? We had a whole conversation about AI and how they're using that, and like, should I be going with a virtual assistant to do this, or should I use AI to do this? Those kinds of decision making, and also financial decision making, right? Because at some juncture in your business, you may not be ready to bring on other people. So what are the other resources that you can use to help you until you are ready? And that is not something that you can think about you could think about it in a silo, but I personally prefer to hear what my peers are doing and then like kind of assess what works for me. So I would say those are the two avenues.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm hoping, as you all are listening, either live or on the replay, that you are making the parallels of, the skills that are being pulled as a leader to do other things like create a 501c3 and operate a 501c3 and an LLC, right? So there are definite skills and traits that you're developing right now as a leader that can be used after, like, for anything. And one of the things that I'm hearing you say is that, this collaborative piece, even as a school leader, a lot of times, you feel like you're working in your silos, like you're the only one, to reach out to your colleagues, right? Sometimes you have your leadership team, but sometimes you need to reach out to your colleagues and brainstorm some things together, right? And so that's really key for your success as you continue on this journey of leadership. So a question I have for you, Rosalind, is what systems, and you did talk about one, which is this calendar, right? But what other systems or processes have you implemented in your business that you wish you had developed earlier as a school leader?
There's probably a lot, but I love a good automation. I love a
Mm.
good automation because
Girl, talk about automation. Yes.
I we are growing so much now that people are calling my phone wanting to speak to me about partnering and different things like that. And I just wish that earlier on, communication is key. Like, not
Yeah.
only is that something that is valued in business, but it's also, we remember how much is valued as leaders. I'm gonna tell you, I feel like leaders were considered the best leaders when they like respond quickly. It don't matter if you got a school that's running squeaky clean. It's about how fast you respond to parents and teachers and whomever else. Like, that is what people value. And so I will say, like, any kind of line of communication where there can be an automation, like whether it's like right now, people, like if someone applies to join our mentoring group, having an automatic email going back to them, like, we received your application and here are the next steps. Or
Gotcha.
somebody reaching out saying, we want to partner, we received your inquiry, here is the link. Like, just
Mhm.
having that to free up your time to do the thinking, to do the creating, to
Yep.
do the big stuff that you need to do to be in front of people, to continue to make the organization grow. So, like, I think automation is very important because it aligns to what people value, which is communication. People love to be able to communicate with you and have that time with you and get what they need, like answers or what have you from you. So having an automation that provides that for them is one. I'm trying to think what other
That's
systems.
a good one.
Okay.
That's a really good one.
Think of another one, but I definitely think that was one that I see transitioning over. As long as you can make sure you have some way to close that loop on communication, I just feel like people really think
Yeah.
that's important and they appreciate that.
Yeah. When you think about, the word communication and how that fits in a school, it's really about culture, right? Like
Mm,
how you're developing culture and your the practices that you have as a school is that we value what you have to say and we respond to you because that's the culture that we've developed here.
mhm.
And so, yeah, I love that. I wished automation was something I knew about too as a school leader. That's a really good one. Um,
Oh, my goodness.
so, as a business owner, you talked about how you prioritize and manage your time using this calendar. But how does it compare? Well, how does it compare? And I really scratch that. Let me rephrase that because I want to get into the meat and potatoes of how you think school leaders right now
Mm,
can support the growth and development of Black girls in their building.
mhm.
What are some of the things that you think a school leader can do or should be doing that really support the growth and development of Black girls?
Yes. Okay. So I am fresh off of over 20 interviews across the United States with Black girls from ages 11 to 18, asking them how they define Black girlhood and what needs do they need in that time,
Mm-hmm.
as well as what does it look like for them to be seen. So, coupling that with some experiences that I've had with Black girls, the first thing I'll say is the thing that school leaders can do first is to see Black girls and not through the lens
Mm.
of who they were as Black girls, right?
Mm.
Like, yes, I once was a Black girl, and I should bring a little bit of that because that should bring compassion to me. Like, that should bring the lens of compassion. But your experience doesn't. My experience is not your experience,
Mm-hmm.
and the lens that was is not the lens that is, right? And so it's very
Love
important
that.
to make sure Black girls have the space in order to be who they are. And when we feel uncomfortable about what that is, understanding that it's not their responsibility to put us at ease. It
Mm.
is our responsibility to go and reckon with, what is it about this? What is it about this loud Black girl that makes me uncomfortable? What is it about this Black girl that takes up all this space that makes me
Yeah.
uncomfortable? What is it about this Black girl that may be quiet that makes me uncomfortable, or has these talents,
Yeah.
or this and that about a
Mm-hmm.
Black girl? What is it? It's not her responsibility to put us at ease. So I think that is number one, because I do think that sometimes we also do a job of, in the same way that oppressive systems and stereotypes put Black girls in a box, I think that we as leaders in schools specifically are only perpetuating that in our schools, and
Yeah.
we have to be alert about that. We have to have our eyes open
Yeah.
around. So that is one, and I think that's the biggest one, right? Because I think that creates this contention between Black girls and leaders,
Yeah.
Black girls and Black women leaders, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because that's not an automatic alignment. Like there's work
Yeah.
that has to be done there.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love how you phrase that because it's so, and I think, I was guilty of this too, being a principal of an all girls school, just thinking I was a Black girl. So I understand exactly what they're going through, right? Like I grew up in the same kind of neighborhood. I know, but I really didn't know. Not until I engaged with each girl that I realized that each girl's story is different and they all are going to react in different ways. So I love that you mentioned that, especially in relationship to you as the leader, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you are a Black woman, as a school leader. Can you share with us, because you mentioned looking for, you didn't use the word flags, but that's how I heard it,
Mhm.
is looking and watching and being aware of the flags
Mm.
in you as a leader. Like, how do you realize that you are actually imposing your experiences on Black girls? How do you, what is there something that female leaders, Black women leaders can try to be more aware of in their emotional intelligence
Mm.
radar, that they could be more aware of when they are doing those things that you said that we should not be doing, or to just be aware of not doing?
Yeah, I think one thing is paying attention to your nervous system. How does Black
Mm.
girl make you feel when she walk in the room?
Girl, yes.
How she make you feel, right? And then like really doing this critical reflexivity where you are really thinking about your thinking. Like, why am I feeling like this? Why is it when she comes in this space I'm feeling this way? It
Mm.
doesn't have anything to do with her because she's a child. You know what I mean? She's just doing what children do. What
Hmm.
is it about? So what is that bringing up for you? What does that make you think about, right? And then realizing when, if you don't, like if you skip that critical reflexivity, what ends up happening is you want to control the behavior to make you feel better, right? Like my nervous system is out of
Mm.
whack. I'm triggered. Something's going on here. So I'm going to control it because we can control children. They're children.
Hmm.
We
Yeah,
have the upper hand. We have the power, unfortunately,
real talk.
which I have a whole thing about power, but we have the power in that space, and they have been taught and conditioned to adhere to power, right? And so we also have to recognize that that is at play. And then how do we make sure that the decision and what comes out of our mouths and the actions that we do, are we doing that in the benefit of the Black girl, or are we doing that in the benefit of making ourselves feel comfortable?
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Oh
those
my
are
gosh.
pieces, like
Woo.
and mind you, I'm telling you this because I've been through it. I had a little Black girl come in the room, just get on my nerves, and I had to say, "What is it about this, Rosalind? What? Because this ain't her. This is you. So let's go to the office and like really process what's this making you feel like, right? You feel your heart beating. You almost want to roll your eyes. You know what I mean? You like, oh, not her
Hmm.
again. Like all the things. Those are the technical things that are happening. Um, and so that is one way. And then also, like when you're finding yourself in a conversation with a Black girl, and when you're finding yourself in a school leading Black girls and you don't hear their voices. When's the last time you asked a Black girl about her opinion about your structures and your systems and the culture of
Yeah.
your school and whether or not it fits her?
Hmm.
When's the last time a Black girl was able to knock on your door and say, hey, Dr. Thomas, morning announcements, they're whack. Can we do something different? And if you're not
Hmm.
hearing authenticity and honesty about how they want their school to be shaped,
Hmm.
then you have to ask yourself, have I created a space for safety?
Right.
I do think optimally, if we're talking about an optimal school culture, it's one where children feel comfortable speaking their mind.
Yep.
And
Yep.
really seeing that when they speak their mind, change happens, because then that builds their muscle around using
Yes.
their voice.
Yes. Yes. Oh my
And that's
gosh.
what we want. That's what
But
we want.
and to your point, what you mentioned earlier is, your experience is not their experience. Right? What I experienced in school is totally different from what they're experiencing now in school. And it's interesting because I was having I was having a conversation with a colleague, and I think the colleague got annoyed with me because the colleague was talking about how teachers are not doing X, Y, and Z. And when I was a teacher, I did blah, 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 blah. And I had to stop her and be like, that's when you were a teacher, though. Like, you can't impose what you did. It's totally different now. Being a teacher today in 2025 is different than when I was first started teaching in 1993. It is completely different. So it's the same thing that you're saying is like, you can't impose your experiences on Black girls as a Black woman and to include them in the decision-making process. If you truly want to create a safe space, if you truly want to make it feel like this is your school, you have to include them in that decision-making. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely. And one thing that, research, and I know that, a lot of the mandates has been like, forget that COVID happened. COVID did happen. And of all the things that were lost was socialization. And in my research, one of the ways that Black girls develop their identity is through interactions with others. So the biggest thing that we can be doing as school leaders now is creating spaces where Black girls are in community, like building community. Like, and that might be your celebration on Friday. That might be your lunch bunches. That might be any kind of creativity where you can get children in community talking to each other, playing with one another, team building with one another. All of those things are important because that's how they learn about who they are. That's how they learn about group dynamics. These are skills that they're going to need as, later on in life, but more than anything, as adults. But more than anything, they're going to need those skills in order to like really develop a sense of self and a sense of confidence, which confidence is something that they need in order to resist some of the oppressive systems and stereotypes that are kind of pushed on them that they do recognize. So I think another huge thing is like, we have got to remember that these babies they lost socialization. And just because they've been back in school for a couple of years does not mean that socialization just happened. I mean, it happened, it happened because we brought them back to school, but there has to be some intentionality about community building, because I see a world where Black girls see each other as sisters and they love each other rather than constantly having like this intercommunal conflict. And we have to be intentional about socialization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Because that crab in a barrel effect, that's an intentional, oppressive Willie Lynch system that has been embedded in us. And I remember reading something, I forgot what they call it right now. So anyone listening to the replay, if you remember, put it in the comments, but it is the impact of the oppressive systems from our ancestors actually become a part of our DNA. I forgot the technical term for it, the research that's been done. I will put it in the comment, look it up and put it in the comments for those folks. So you know what it's called. It's not emergent. I'm gonna look it up. I have the tab on my phone and I'll put it in the comments. But I said that to say that this intentional piece is so critical. Like when you're thinking about as a school leader, right? I remember being a principal at another school where they didn't want them going outside for recess. And we're talking about creating spaces and opportunities for kids to engage with one another. You have to have recess. Kids can't sit down doing puzzles all day. What is the intent? Like, what are you doing? How are you creating spaces? Do they have a club? Have you created clubs, especially for secondary school, middle and high school? What clubs are available for during lunchtime that they can come to and sit in a safe space and sit in a circle and talk? And, affinity groups. Do you have those things? That's the intentionality. When you said that I was thinking of that, our Black girls, all of our babies need it, but our Black girls specifically need it because we know that we are the number one oppressed group in these here United States of America.
That's it.
Right? That's a fact. So I love that you said that. Can you share with us, because you've been doing this work, can you share with us some of the things, strategies that school leaders, deans, teachers, anyone who's in a leadership mode in their building or in their district, that they can begin to think about and do, so that this intentionality is present in terms of creating these spaces, especially for Black girls?
Yeah. So I would say starting around fourth and fifth grade, we are seeing that the Black girls' personalities are starting to pop out, right? Up until now, it's like, I want to please my teacher. I want to please my mama. I want to please my daddy. I want to please my guardian. I want to please whomever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something around that fourth and fifth grade, it's like they just like commute, like the socialization becomes one that they are not understanding each other's differences. And as a result of not understanding each other's differences, it's not like they're leaning in their children. They're not leaning in like, you're different than me. Let me figure out what this is. No, it's like, you're different than me and I don't like it, And
Right.
like, so I would say in that fourth and fifth grade space specifically, there has to be times where even your more dominant Black girls are put in spaces where you're teaching them compassion, where you're teaching them empathy, where you're teaching them how to be within community with people who are not like them. Peer influence is starting to peak up in fourth and fifth grade. And so we have to make sure that, we're teaching them to make wise decisions. And even though you want to be accepted, what does it look like to really follow the beat of your own drum?
Right.
Even if that means that you're not accepted by this particular person, and really teaching them that, their gifts are going to make room for them, and just holding on to that piece of because they don't see it yet, right?
Yeah.
They don't see it until a little bit later, maybe the end of middle school, that like, I'm that girl. But at first it's like, I'm not like this girl. So
Right.
I'm not that girl. You know what I mean? And they have to continue to understand that they are, they are more than enough. They are unique. So
Yeah.
only is it about being intentional about creating spaces and lessons and opportunities to learn about emotional intelligence and all of the different spheres of emotional intelligence, like self-awareness, social awareness, managing their emotions, understanding what their emotions are, understanding why their emotions came out. Like, this is the time that those conversations have to happen, because
Right.
they are experiencing a lot in their mind. And I listened to a little girl say to me during one of the interviews, she said, some in a day I could be feeling sad and I can be feeling happy, and I just have all these emotions, and they're big and they're small, and it just gave me such love and just compassion for this little 11-year-old, talking about how she's developing emotionally.
Yeah.
Because when puberty comes, our girls are changing so much, and it's like, can we just take a step back to not just look at her like she's supposed to know, but look at her like, oh my gosh, she's coming into a new stage in her life. Let me figure out what she needs as in this stage, girlhood, to get her through. Because believe you me, while we are, punishing Black girls and telling them what they should be doing, they're already thinking in their heads about how they made a misstep. They're already
how they don't fit in.
They're already doing all of that. So they don't need the adults around them kind of like making that hyper visible. Yep. They need somebody around them to tell them it's okay. Like, I know that you were impulsive, because they're impulsive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And stuff are working faster than their brains.
Yeah.
Like we have to make sure that we're paying attention to developmental research when it comes to Black girls. It's just like we see them and we think that they're just supposed to know. No, they don't know. They've been on Earth for 11 years. They don't know. What does it look like to teach them? And so that's fourth and fifth grade. Like, that emotional development piece is so huge. Middle school age, those girls are, you got to have, like you said, you got to have clubs. You got to have interest groups. They are trying to figure out who they are. Yeah. Not only within the socialization, but also like, what do I like? But if you have a school where there's no way for them to explore what they like, then you're not helping them develop themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to, and everybody don't have the opportunity to pay for extracurricular outside of school. Right. Even have the time to do extracurricular outside of school. So schools have to be this space that develops children's interests as well. And it's also a time in middle school where, and I think this is throughout, but I would say that we need to make sure that we have so many ways that Black girls can be represented. That is the one thing that came out of the Black girls are tired of you all showing the same type of Black girls.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, we're the Black girls that we're all Black. We're the quiet Black girls. We're the Black girls. We're the nerdy Black girls. Like we know Black girls fly. You ain't got to tell us, right?
Right.
But it's all of us over here that we don't care about all of that. So I care about construction. Where's she at? I care about crocheting. Where is that representation at? That's important. They need to know at a time in middle school that it is okay to be whatever version of the Black girl they are. And even if you don't have to go out and research that. You can look around your school and see the various representations.
Yeah.
And making sure that that is illuminated in your space.
Yeah. I love that.
And then high school, Black girls they're thinking about their future. What is next? Middle school, they're thinking about it a little bit too, but they are playing around with interest to figure it out. In high school, they're just like, what is next? And so we have to make sure we're setting Black girls up to say, like, what is next for you? No, I mean, you know, there are so many schools that have these tracking systems. And Dr. Thomas, I already know how you feel about tracking. You have told me that the day that I met you. However, you know, we have to see them. Like, there are some girls that never have had somebody say, you know what, you are really good at X. Have you considered Y? Let me also tell you how to get to Y. And doing that early, right? Because there are some children that get all the way to 11th grade and then no one's poured into them and they finally meet that one. But we know it's never too late, but it's too late. Because now she got to go through extra hoops in order to achieve her dreams.
Yeah.
So I view what the needs for Black girls are in those types of stages along girlhood continuum because they need different things. But what the through line is, they need to be seen. You got to look at them. You got to see them. You got to see them like in their humanity and where they are developmentally and make sure that you are creating a school that aligns to that, which benefits everybody, by the way.
Right. Yeah. And it makes so much sense. I love how you provided each stage of the schooling, you know, elementary, middle, and high school, and what girls need. And it sounds like through all of them, that space that you're talking about is absolutely needed. And Dr. Jody Easterling Hood on LinkedIn said epigenetic inheritance is what I think you were referring to. So I'll double check that. Thanks, Dr. Jody. The theme for all three of those that you just mentioned is this creation of a safe space, right? And so when we think about that as a school leader, like we're having this conversation, it's giving our viewers something to think about and to talk about, right? And to actually begin planning if you're using your Lead Beyond Limits reflection and guide. Putting it in place requires systems. It requires a shift in mindsets, right? Like the question you asked, it was so powerful. I automatically thought about putting it on a t-shirt, right? How does she make you feel? How does that Black girl make you feel when she walks in the room? How does she make you feel? That is so critical for us as educators to ask ourselves, for the school leaders to have conversations with their leadership team. I believe the leadership team is the tentacles of the right of the building. So having this conversation with your leadership team around your feelings about this Black girl, why is this feeling coming up in you, right? This whole emotional intelligence piece is so critical. And I'm saying all that to say there are still some people who believe that there is no place for these conversations in school, that school is the place where kids come to learn and to pass tests and to move on to the next thing. There's some people who feel like there's too many things that are already going on in a school. We have to be their mama, their daddy, their granny, their doctor, their psychologist, their therapist, all these things that I've heard educators say they have to be. To what would you say to those educators to inspire them to make this shift, to change their lens in terms, especially when we're talking about Black girls?
Yeah, I mean, they're not lying. Because let me tell you something, as an educator, you wear a lot of hats, and I can't deny that that is a real thing. But I think we have to move past like the hats that we wear to the purpose that we're of why we're there. Like, it's about purpose. Like, I think everybody, and I know it may not be reality, but I do believe every educator and every leader should have a purpose for why they are there. Education is such hard work, such transformation work, such generational work. Like, you are laying seeds for a generation you will never see.
Yep.
You may never see the fruits of your labor. You're going to be gone. But 20 years from now or 20 decades from now, something you did to change someone's life is going to change their lineage, right? And so I think that knowing that responsibility and having such a level of that type of passion will cause you to really reframe thinking, right? It's not about the technicalities of I got to get ready for this IEP meeting and I got to do this, I got to do that. It's almost like reframing to say the seeds that I sow today will help a generation I'll never see.
That's right. Legacy.
That's
Building
it.
your legacy. Yeah.
That's it. And that's what it has to be. And I know that right now it's always, I think we can always say this. It don't matter if we were having this podcast 3 years ago.
Right.
It's always educators, it's a heavy field, right? We have so much responsibility. It's also so rewarding. Like, we're just responsible for how the world runs. And I think that we should absolutely be acknowledged for that.
Yeah.
Around, like, listen, there would be no Vice President Kamala Harris without an educator, right?
That's right.
There would not be a President Barack Obama or a Dr. Martin Luther King or a Malcolm X, or the list can go on and on and on.
Right.
Educator. Those educators sow seeds. And so we need people. Like, our bigger purpose is that we have to make sure that the generation can take care of the world. Like, we have a responsibility around, like, people that can handle climate change, people that can handle technology, people that can handle this world that's going to continue to evolve. That's the bigger picture. And I think when you waking up to that realization versus like all of these to-dos I have to do, I think it will shift and let you know you are that educator. Like, you are that girl, that guy, that whomever. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It is.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Viewers, listeners, Dr. Rosalind Fleming, future Dr. Rosalind Fleming is dropping some gems here, okay? I mean, think about from taking off your hat. Like, I have these tasks and a job to do and seeing it in terms of tasks to your purpose, right? Which is something I talk about all the time. It's the first phase of my framework, is how you are connecting to and aligning with your purpose and your values as a human being first, that spill into your leadership work, right? It is so critical to do that. And I think, to your point, Rosalind, I remember going to a conference, and Dr. Lavelle Brown, he's actually from Virginia. He's a superintendent in Ithaca. Been a superintendent there, I think, for like 11 years now, a long-standing superintendent. I heard him say something at a conference where he was saying the antidote for the challenges that we have with how our Black students are faring in public education systems is we have to slow down. And that, to me, is what you're saying. What you're saying is, what I'm hearing is that we need to slow down and provide the love, the space, the care that is needed for our Black girls so that they can thrive. Right. And if education is constantly chasing after numbers, test scores, all of that stuff, then we're not slowing down. We don't have time to create the space. But if we slow down, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Slow down is the key. right? Um, I'm so I'm so glad to hear you drop these gems for people, and I'm hoping that as you are listening to Rosin, that you are making the connections to how you are going to control your narrative, how you're going to lead with confidence, and
Mm.
how you're going to build your legacy, because that's something that was discussed during the session right here with Rosin, right? So make those connections and build and plan and reflect. Rosalind, thank you so much
Thank you
for your
for having
time
me.
today. Is there anything I'd love for you to share your information, how people can get in contact with you, if there's any volunteer work?
Yeah.
Um, so please share your information with folks.
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn at Rosalind Fleming. You can also tap into www.empoweringHerDestiny.org. That is our nonprofit where you can learn about all things that is always going on and even ways to volunteer and provide any support of any kind. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Empowering Her Destiny Inc. So yeah, and then Facebook too, Empowering Her Destiny. So that is all the places that I am. I would love to tap in with you all. We are trying to make sure that Black girls feel seen, because when they feel seen, they're confident. When they're confident, they can resist against any of these structures that's trying to keep them in a box that
Yes.
will ultimately have them not reach their destiny. So I
And
really
and
appreciate being here.
and so can you just clarify for people, when you say empowering her destiny, it's
Hmm.
the spelling is different. It's not the
Oh, it's
regular.
Yeah, it's actually the same spelling. So empowering, EMPOWERINGHERDESTINY.
Got you. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure because I knew there was some, like the font looks different on one part than
Oh,
another. So I'm like, wait a minute, I want to make sure it gets it right because,
yeah,
Driven
come on
LLC is
now.
with a Y. So I just want to make sure that people understand and have that
Absolutely.
information. Listen, I appreciate you so much, Rosalind Fleming. Thank you for your knowledge and expertise. And you clearly have this passion for this work. And I look forward to working together in the future so that we can actually, build this legacy that's needed.
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Hold
Dr.
on.
Thomas.
Absolutely. Hold on one second.